Okay guys, so Laravel is a framework which means that it separates all the three components of the MVC, which are the model, the view and the controller. So what I want to do today is to work with a view and create a controller and modify a bit my routes.php file because as we will see later, if we have all the logic of our application inside the routes file, it will be hell because it might go up to 10,000 lines or 20,000 lines, which is something that we do not want. So what I will do is to explain you guys today about the Blade template engine. So this is the engine that Laravel uses, and it has a lot of advantages because the Blade template engine, can implement logic, which means that we can have if statements, we can have loops like while loops or like for loops, like for each loops, etc. And this is a big advantage because we can extend our application. We can have some logic inside our view, which is amazing. So what I want to do is to create a controller because, as I said, if we have all our logic inside our routes.php, then this file might get up to 10,000, 20,000 lines, and it will be unmanageable. So what I want to do is to create a separate controller for each of my tasks. Okay, so I will have small tasks, and for each task I will have a controller for that. So in our case here, as you can see, we have generic pages like the about page or like the contact page, the help page, or even the root. So what I want to do is to create a pages controller and have all the logic for all these routes inside the pages controller. However, how can I create a controller? So what I will do is to go back to my documentation. So as you can see here, at the left side, you have a controller. So under the basics, you have a controllers link. So if you click there, you can see that you have some code for a basic controller as an example. So I will copy this code, the whole thing, and I will go to my controllers folder, and here now I will right click and say new file. So I will save this file and I will call this file pagescontroller.php, and I will paste inside here my code. As you can see, we have a namespace that points to the controllers folder, and then we are using the user class. However, if we go to the user class, so the path for that is to go to the app and then go to the user class. So as you can see here, the user class is something that is not necessary for the moment. So what I will do is to just delete delete that line of code. Then we point to the controller class. So if I go to HTTP controllers, you can see that we have here a controller class, and this class extends base controller, while our pages controller extends this controller class. So the next step now is to delete everything inside the class pages controller. And before I forget, we also have to change the name of this class. So pages controller. Excellent. So what I want to do now is, instead of having the logic inside our routes.php file, as I said, I want to have the logic inside my pages controller. And of course, I want to have different functions for each of my requests here, for each of my get requests. So what I will do here is to go and say public function. So I want to start with the about route. Okay, so I will create my first function that will point to the about route. So I will say get, which is our request in our case. So we're having a get request, and what I want to do now is to say about, which is the name of the route, and then below here inside my get about function, I want to have the same code right here. So return view, and then we specify the folder, which is pages, and then the view, which is called about.blade.php. However, we can simply say about, and Laravel will know where to find the view. Excellent. So what I want to do now is to actually change this, because this route right here is called the basic routing. So what I want to do is to use named routes. So back to our documentation, and I want to go to the routing section. Very good. So right here now, you can see that the basic routing is what we are using right now at the moment. So what I want to do is instead use the named routes, which is something like this. So I will copy the code of this and go back to my code and delete the about route, and I will have the new one, which is a named route. So the route for this is of course about. This points to the about page, and what I want to do now is to give a name to this route. So the name of this route will be about, and you will see why I do this, because later actually we will have this actually will help us later to access this whole route, and we will see later better what I mean. Now this uses what controller? This uses a pages controller. So pages controller, and what we want to do is to call the getAbout function. So at getAbout, and this is everything that we need. So I will save everything, and I will go back now to my browser because I want to run the application. So localhost, and I will go to the about page. Let's see what we have here. As you can see, nothing changed, guys. So we have the same result. This is the about page, which means that our code worked. Now, the difference is that our application now is more extendable, because we can have each of these, we can have a function for each of these routes. So I can do the same for the contact page and for the help page. So I will go down here now and say public function get contact, and I will do the exact same thing. So I will copy my return here line of code, and we can also do the same for the help. However, these were just illustrations to see how we create routes, so I will delete them. I also want another function now just for the route, so we can have access to the route. So what I will do is to say public function, and now this will point to the index, so get index, and the index is our root. So I will copy this, paste it there. Excellent. So what I want to do now is to do the exact same thing for the root and for the contact page. So I will copy this line, these lines actually of code, and I will change this to the root, and we can also change this to something that we can say here home, or we can say slash. So I will say slash just because it is easier. Now this will call the getIndex function, and this one is called contact. I will copy this, and this now will call the getContact function inside our pages controller. So if I save everything and I go back to my browser, as you can see, nothing has changed. Contact again is working, and also our index is also working perfectly. So what I want to do now is to actually, guys, work with the view. So I will close everything from here, and I will go to my view. So finally I can show you how Blade works. So I will go to resources, views, pages, and now I can open my about page. So as you can see here, we have a bit of code. However, this is not enough. So what I will do is to have the code for my HTML. Excellent. So what I want to do now is to have a title here, so we can say about page, about us maybe, and inside, and I will take this line and have this inside my body. Now inside this body now, we could also have this with an h1 tag, so it is more visible. And below here now, I could have the name of the company, okay, which is code executable. So I want to go back to my browser and go to the about page. As you can see now, we have some HTML tags here, the paragraph there, so everything is working. However, I want to do something else, because I do not want to take the name of the company as a constant. I wanted to take the name of the company from the controller. Okay, so what I want to do now is to go to my HTTP controllers and open my pages controller. And here now, I want to pass a variable to my about page. which is the name of the company. So I will take the name of the company called executable, and I will create a variable here and have the name there. So what I will do is to say company name, and this is equal now to the code executable. So excellent. So what I want to do now is to pass this variable inside my about page. So I want to use this variable inside my about page. I want, in other words, to echo this variable. So how can I do this? So what I will do is to say with, and now we can give a name to this with anyway, and of course the value that will be passed to the about page is a company name. And the name that I will give to this is, we can say, name. So how can I access this variable now? Very simple, by just saying curly brackets, curly brackets, curly brackets, curly brackets. So we open them and we close them, and inside here now I can say name. So if I go back to my browser, reload, you can see that nothing changes. However, now we are taking the name called executable from the controller, and it is not constant anymore from the view. So what I want to do now is to explain you guys how we can have access to this variable. So as you see now, I gave this a name, which is name, and I access this with the name. So because this might be confusing by just saying name, 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 so I want to show you that if you say name 123 and I reload my page, you will see that we have an error now because it does not it does not recognize the name that we have in our code. So what I have to do in order to access this now, I have to give the name 123. So name 123. If I reload this now, it is working. So it means that whatever name you have here, you must have in your view in order to access the variable that you are passing, which in our case it is company name. So you could also say here actually company name, and now it is more simpler, I think, because you have the same name for the variable. So it is much simpler to understand this. And of course, if I change here my string to something like code executable inc, you will see that it will also change in my view. Excellent. So now, guys, you know how to pass a variable to the view. So I want to also pass another variable to my view, but in this case, I don't want it to be a string. I want it to be a true or a false value. So I will say is user registered, and I will pass false. Okay, so this is now false. So what I want to do is to go to the about page, and here now I want to have an if statement. What I want to do now is to check. So I will say if the name of the variable is user registered, so I will copy this. So if is user registered equals to true, then we can say hello man, hello mate, much better. Okay, so else if the user is not registered, then what I want to do is to say please register, and then we always have to close the if, so we have to say and if. Of course, now if I run my application, it will not work because it does not recognize is user registered because I have not passed this to my about page. So what I have to say here is to say again, let me add a couple of new lines here so it is more readable. Okay, so with, and now I can say is user registered, and we pass the variable is user registered. So if I run this now, you will see that it will work. However, we're getting please register. Why we do that? Well, very simple. So we say if the user is registered, then echo hello mate. Otherwise, echo please register. Well, of course, the value is false, so of course it will print please register. Excellent. So what we want to do now is to also find this to the documentation. So I will go to my documentation, and I will go to my blade templates. So as you can see here, We have a couple of code at the beginning, which is not necessary for this video. However, we will of course work with that later. And as you can see now, it shows you how you can access the variable that you pass to the view. As you can see here, it passes to the welcome view, it passes a variable, and you can access this actually it passes a value, which is Samantha, a string, a name, whatever, and you can access this Samantha by using name. As you can see here, it uses name to access Samantha, and you can also use an @ symbol at the front of your curly brackets in order uh, to avoid a couple of crashes that you might have with some JavaScript frameworks, because also many JavaScript frameworks are using curly braces, so you can use the @ symbol to avoid the crashes. And as you can see here, instead of saying if else, you can also use the shorter syntax, which is this one. And you can also have something else, which is the following shortcut. So if name exists, then it echoes the value inside the name. Otherwise, it it echoes a default value. So you can also have unscaped data by using curly brace, one curly brace, and then exclamation mark, and close that by saying exclamation mark, and then the closing curly brace. Okay, so what I want to do now is to go at the control structures. As you can see, we have the if statements here. As I said, we already used the if, so we said if this, else that. You could also say else if, and then have parentheses, and then have the condition there. And we also have loops. As you can see, we have a loop here. So we can copy this actually, and I can go down here and paste the code there, so we can see the result. So if I save that, I go back to my browser, about page, and I reload this. As you can see now, we have a loop which starts from 0 up to 10, and it prints the current value is I, and it also prints the I every single time. So what I want to do now in this case is to have a P, which is the paragraph for each line. And of course, this now we could also have this inside paragraphs. Okay. And let me reload the page so you can see the result now much cleaner. Excellent. So this is a for loop that you could have inside your view in order to have a bit of logic. You could also have a for each loop. So what I want to do now for the for each loop, I want to have a couple of data here and access the data by using a for each loop inside our above.play.php. So I will go to my controller, and here now I want to create a couple of users and insert them inside an array. So I will say users, and I will create an array here, and I can give now a couple of names. So Renato, Eric, John, Samantha. Excellent. So what I want to do now is to pass this array of users inside the about page and access the names inside my using a for each loop. So we can see here, we can go or down there and say with, and say users, comma, using the users array. Inside the about.play.php now, we can go to our documentation, and we can go to our for each loop here. As you can see, it is just a for each loop, like always, like you have done in your PHP code. It is the exact same thing. So we can say for each users as data, and what I will do now, of course, close the for each, so and for each, inside here now I can say data. And of course we need to print this, so we will have this inside our curly braces. So I will go here, I will go to my local host, so back to our about page, and as you can see, we have right at the end the names, which are Renato, Eric, John, and Samantha. And of course, I can use a BR at the end, so we can have lines Renato, Eric, John, Samantha. And this is how you can use your for each loop. So we have already done the for loop, the for each loop. We still have the for else loop and the while loop. However, you can also, I mean, you already know PHP, so you could very easily understand how you could use these other loops. And actually, this is everything that I wanted to use, to show you in this video. However, we still have a lot to explain about Blade because we have our, as you can see here, if I go at the beginning of the Blade templates, we have a bit of other stuff here, like the section, like the extents, and so on. So we still have a lot to explain about Blade. However, for this video, I think this is enough. So I will see you guys next time.